Hello, everyone, and welcome to another installment of TED Excellence, the show in which I don't let the sun go down on me, because it'd probably be pretty painful. Hope everyone's doing well. I am here, coming to you live from my Corona bunker on the moon, with Dogcat Fox, a Pepperjack, and all of you. Hello, everyone. Hope you're doing well. There's going to be an experiment here for the first minute or so as I say my hellos, because StreamYard is telling me I'm having connection issues for no particular reason. So if I start roboting disgustingly as we proceed, this might be a very short broadcast, but we'll find out together. It is Thursday once again, which means it's TEDx Day. And what do I have for you today? Well, I don't know. I think I've said that several times in the past as well. This TEDx caught my attention for two reasons. First and foremost, of course, the title, which at least involves by verbiage, text. A subject that I have been curious about for some time, anti-racism, but also the ambiguity of the title, anti-racism at sunset. I don't know what that means. But additionally, as has happened before, not very often, but has happened before, the video had a warning on it in its description. Now, I don't usually read through the description, but you can't really avoid necessarily glancing at that little stub of a description that pops up at the top of the description area under a video. And this one was flagged by TED because it did not conform to their presentation policies or something to that effect. Now, usually I see that in reference to a TEDx that covers something, let's say, medical, and they say something like, TED cannot verify the accuracy of this information, should not be considered medical, something like that, some kind of disclaimer. This one, no clue. No clue. So for those two reasons, I thought I'd pick this one out. Thank you, tall person. Happy Spoonerism Day. I hope you all have a date gray. Yes, I remember now. Spoonerisms. That's where you use a different word in replacement of a different word. Let's see, like Cockney slang does that quite a bit, I think, if I remember correctly. So, thank you, tall person. I hope you have a Barnacle Amsterdam. No, that's not how that works. I know. I'm terrible. I can't think on my feet. What can I tell you? Who is here joining me for this wonderful adventure so far? Matt Barnes, hello. Tall person, hello. Funtime Bats, hello. Zeke Weiss, hello. Jamie Melquist, hello. Hayden Titsy, hello. Attack Alpaca, hello. Keeverdam, hello. Somnamnul Nation, hello. Swirl Blue, hello. Bridget, hello. Hi, M. Steve, hello. Well, there's a spoonerism, kind of, sort of. A. Scanner Daffley, hello. Austin P, hello. Zalbla, hello. Ryan R, hello. 2 cents plus. Hey, Satsu, how's it going? Bruno Montiero, hello. Debatefly, hello. No Name, hello. Mike Savage, blarg. Decode, hello. Professor Chaos, hello. Check Your Logic, hello. Lurking Gopher, hello. Miat Uyori. Or Miat? There was a joke in an old Huey Lewis in the News music video where he says to a pretty girl, hey, you want to go out on my yacht? And she's like, sure. And they get to the beach, and on there's a dinghy that is named Myott, M-Y-O-T-T. Ha 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 ha. That was the joke. Green Death, hello. The gayest person on YouTube, hello. And Script Doctor, hello. Sabian187, hello. Juggernaut, hello. This is Kyle, hello. K-Shul, hello. The Magister, hello. If I missed you, I apologize, only because my aim is off. Let's get into it. So, here's the thing. I forgot to put up the poll for the bingo card, as has happened in the past once or twice. I have had a very, very busy work day so far. It's not over yet. So I have arbitrarily picked bingo card A as in arbitrary. So you can get your bingo cards in the description below. Links are there. Get your bingo card ready for this TEDx, Mystery Box TEDx, Anti-Racism at Sunset. Clocks in at just over 14 minutes, so your standard TEDx runtime. Going to start off with a few seconds for sound test. You guys tell me if you can hear it, and then we will proceed.
COVID-19 has claimed the lives of more than 500,000 Americans, and it's taken the humanity of countless more.
Okay, COVID-19, etc. I hope I don't get flagged for this for the algorithm. Now, as a note, I know the sound quality is tinny at best. I have boosted it as much as I could. So hopefully it's coherent to you guys. Or I guess, you know, not incoherent. If you can't hear that, let me know quick, because this is going to be a very short broadcast. I've said that twice now. Oh boy, I can hear it, says Swirl Blue. Jamie Milquist, hear him. It's not on your side. COVID, blah, blah, blah. Heard it. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I did boost the sound, tried to amp it up a bit. So fingers crossed. All right. So COVID took a bunch of people's lives and took the humanity. Took the humanity. What does that mean?
I've been lucky to be spared the grip of this virus, but I've been acquainted with one myself.
Uh-huh.
I've been Asian and American my whole life, but...
Oh, okay. You've been Asian and American your whole life. And that has familiarized you with a virus. Oh, and for those of you listening at home, there is now a map on the screen, a map that shows the Pacific Ocean, and a bunch of markings on this map, a la Indiana Jones style, but not quite, with a bunch of arrows pointing to Taiwan, and the words, "I'm quote-unquote from here," and then an arrow pointing to San Francisco, or at least California, and here, says the text on that side of things. Okay. So...
But I was born in and adopted from Taiwan.
Okay.
And it wasn't until this pandemic that I began to feel so far away from the country of my birth, and as if I'd lived my whole life in a country that promised me a dream, but a promise it couldn't keep.
A dream is a wish your heart makes. Okay, promising you a dream. You can dream all you want. You know, I can imagine quite a bit. You kind of have to make your own way in the world. Distance from your country of your birth. I mean, I don't know at what age you were adopted from Taiwan, but you've been as distant from your country of birth since you came to this country. I don't know. I don't know where we're going with this. I have a feeling, though.
I met my family in my hometown of Taipei, my birth mother, who was 16 when she had me.
Okay.
And in Taiwan, we look Chinese, we speak Chinese, I don't.
You don't speak Chinese, even though they speak Chinese in Taiwan. Okay, all right. Your distance from your home country is more than just geographical then.
We aren't Chinese, but we have a unique place in this country's history.
Well, no, you would be Taiwanese unless you believe in China's sovereignty over Taiwan, I suppose. Or, admittedly, I am a dumb Yankee, so maybe I'm missing something here. Or do the Taiwanese people consider themselves to be Chinese? Because I don't know. I'll step back. I do not know, but that was my understanding.
Just like people from everywhere else. And yet we're all thrown into this pan-ethnic label, Asian American, a catch-all for half of the world's population.
Well, you just classified yourself as both American and Asian, so you're as guilty of it as everybody else, I guess?
But for my whole life as an adoptee, adopted by wonderful Chinese-American parents who look like me.
Oh, is that important to you?
I've lived in San Francisco, California, and I would sit on the roof of my house, look west, past the Golden Gate Bridge, towards the setting sun, And it was a crushing reminder of how far away Taiwan was, literally beyond the horizon.
That sounds like a personal problem. I mean, I don't know the laws or the requirements or anything else, but is there anything preventing you from moving to Taiwan? I mean, if you were born in Taiwan, presumably you have dual citizenship. So, or maybe that's what you're leading up to. Maybe you're building up to that.
Beyond the beginning of the night and where the darkness begins.
Oh, how poetic.
So I don't see horizons as something hopeful. Rather, to me, a horizon is an orientation, not a destination.
A horizon is an orientation, not a destination. Let's go to the bingo card, shall we? Okay, let's see. First off, going to circle free space because I think we're already there. Collectivize his own demographic. Yes, certainly already that way. Systemic institutional, not yet. Sales pitch for product or service, not yet. Childhood or family anecdote. Yep, he was adopted, visited his birth mother, and so on. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Hasn't gotten there yet. Plays victim. I'm definitely getting signals of it, but I'm going to give a bit more time to it. Microaggressions, unconscious bias, not yet. Privilege, not yet. Contradicts own point or argument, not sure what it is yet. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example, not yet. Wage gap, no. Feminism, no. Marginalized, marginalization. I have a feeling we'll get there. A list. I mean, that graphic you just had on there with all the different countries. Now I'll wait until there's actually a list and not just a map. White supremacy, no. Word salad. I see a horizon as an orientation, not a destination. I am going to give him an opportunity to explain this before I circle word salad, because perhaps he is going to make it clearer, but I'm right on the edge. Self-vilification or wretchedness? No, and I'd be surprised. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason? Not yet. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase? Not yet, although I don't know if this constitutes a buzzword or buzz phrase, orientation, destination. Mind reading assumes motives. In my own clairvoyance, I have a feeling we'll get there. Benevolent condescension? Not yet, technically. Anecdote that probably never happened, hasn't given us any yet, or at least none that don't sound reasonable. And leaves out vital context, not as of yet. So what we have so far on the bingo card: collectivize his own demographic, childhood or family anecdote, and free space. And again, for those of you that might be joining late, we are on bingo card A. And now that Lexi Mads is here, I'm just going to continue as we have been.
Anti-racism, racism, they're kind of like sunsets. You can't ever be at a sunset. You can't touch it, but it touches you.
Anti-racism, racism is like a sunset. You can't touch it, but it touches you. Okay.
We still paint them. We take pictures of them seriously. Millions of pictures of them, because they do something to us. They make us feel a certain way.
You mean sunsets or racism? I'm assuming you mean sunsets.
But you can't touch racism. Racism touches every single one of us, every single day.
Every single day, yes. Racism is the universal constant in every institution, in every facet of life, forever and always it shall be. That is the credo of the anti-racist philosophy. It assumes racism everywhere, first and foremost, and then proceeds from that assumption. So, yes, our speaker is definitely, at least by his words, a follower of the anti-racist philosophy.
And an orientation is something to be pointed towards, which of course isn't a bad thing at all. But it's when we mistake an orientation for a destination that we are convinced that we have already reached a post-racial America where racism no longer exists.
No one in their right mind would ever believe that racism no longer exists. I think you might be constructing a straw man there. Racism as a prime mover in our laws and society and general interactions one to another. I don't think I'd be off base in saying that, for the most part, that frequency had been reduced drastically between, I don't know, the 80s and the 90s, early 2000s. Only very recently have we got shoved back into a cesspool of racial identitarianism for the good of all. So, yeah, no one in their right mind would ever say we're ever going to exist in a world where racism does not exist, unless they're either lying or delusional. Let's put it that way. And those people would be probably very few in number.
Look, in San Francisco, I spoke more Spanish than any other language except English. I remember all the times I refused to go to Chinese school. Hell, I even hated Chinese food that didn't come from Panda Express.
Are you required to? Is your learning Spanish not cultural appropriation? Do Chinese people need to love Chinese food? Where are we going with this?
And my school sat atop a hill from which you could literally look down upon Angel Island, where my ancestors were first hidden away from the rest of America, and Chinatown, where we were told we could never leave.
How could if you were born in Taiwan, I mean, unless, of course, I guess if they came back to, how could your ancestors have been on Angel Island or Chinatown if you were adopted from Taiwan? I mean, again, unless you have family members. Okay, that just seems a bit off. I don't know. It's not impossible. It's just threw my brain off for a second.
Being an adoptee made me a pessimist growing up because I rarely felt as if I belonged.
Wait, you went out of your way to tell us that you were adopted by Chinese American parents who pointedly, as you did, look like you. So did your family do that, or
fit in, even though I'm about as American as it gets.
Okay.
I played varsity baseball in high school, sadly.
Yeah.
I have a degree in political science.
Okay.
And I teach teachers how to teach U.S. history.
Oh, that's great. I'm so made to feel secure in that knowledge. And you were not made to fit in how? I mean, everybody at one point in their lives is probably not feeling like they fit in. That's sort of part of growing up, finding your place, all that kind of thing. Lord knows I was made not to feel like I fit in at multiple stages in my life. But, okay.
But I'm not here to convince you that I'm American. I am here to tell you that I'm trying to live up to a single standard of what it means to be American is a pursuit of happiness.
A pursuit of happiness is, part of sort of the American lexicon, life, liberty thereof. But it's also an ambiguity because your happiness is not necessarily someone else's happiness, and on and on. And yes, it's the pursuit. It's not the promise or guarantee. It's the pursuit. And the standard of happiness. I don't know. What makes you happy?
Like the American dream itself, that too many of us as people of color will never reach.
Why? Why? Because you're people of color, you'll never reach happiness? Why?
A lot of what we've probably heard about anti-racism and social justice has been in pursuit of survival, keeping us alive. But
how are you on this stage? How did you get on the baseball team? How did you graduate college? How did you become a teacher of teachers? Who is currently stopping you? I mean, heck, even though for whatever reason, and I'm hoping it's the sound quality, this TEDx talk falls outside of the TED standard, it was still broadcast to the world. I'm still watching it. Who is after you for your life?
Survival, keeping us alive. But what about thrival? Our joys, our happiness, which go beyond the portrayals of pain and suffering in the news media and the stigmatization of mental health.
I am now going to circle word salad, because if not for the last several seconds, then I'm sure in aggregate I won't be off base in doing so. Let's see, also circling plays victim. Doing that right there. And okay, two things. I'm waiting for him to explain, at least from his perspective, how the quote-unquote American dream, i.e. the acquisition of happiness, is denied anyone who isn't white. Because if he doesn't do that, I'm going to be circling make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. And I'll probably also, even though I hesitate to do a twofer, probably circle leaves out vital context. But we'll see.
Part of it comes from how we become racialized, made into an other as Asian Americans, be it the way we look, the languages we speak, or the countries we're from. And yet, many people of color living in this country, like me, have almost no connection to where we're really from.
Okay, wait a second. Why are you putting "from" in air quotes? You made it very clear that your country of birth, a place you long to be, seemingly, you're not quote unquote from there. You are literally from there. You're not raised there, I'm guessing. So if someone asks you where you're from, you would have an answer that's not San Francisco, right? Because, I mean, the complaint I get a lot of, or I get a lot of times, the complaint I hear a lot of times, which might have some merit to it, I don't know, is someone says, hey, where are you from? To someone who is not white, let's say. And then the microaggression is, oh, you don't think I'm from here because I don't look white? And it is kind of it depends, a very ambiguous question, but we know what they really mean is usually the complaint. But in your case, there's a real answer to that, and not one that's necessarily offensive or presumptuous, even though you don't speak Chinese. And let's just say I'm getting a lot of mixed signals from our speaker's complaint so far versus the things that he's stated as fact and things that he is proud of, if that makes any sense. Maybe I'm committing word salad right now.
And I'm not alone in saying that America doesn't really feel like home when we're told to go back to places many of us have never been.
Snapping? Okay, are we at an old beatnik kind of setup or something? Or clapping is too triggering? I can't say what our speaker has gone through. I don't know how many times a day someone says, go back where you came from. Given some of the videos I'm seeing lately, I could believe it's happened. Okay, but is that America doing that? Are you blaming the entire country for that notion, for your feelings?
The Asian community has been under attack for the past year.
Okay.
Assaults on people I've never met, but whose pain I feel as if it were my own.
I'm having a hard time believing your performance there.
They're the same age as my parents, and I, as an 8-year-old, experienced what it's like to see an Asian American person bleed to death on the pavement in front of me.
Okay, when did that happen? What happened?
That individual lost his life after he T-boned my father's car. His blood soaking a pack of baseball cards I clenched in my hands as I uttered the F word for the first time in my life.
Okay, so a guy T-bones your dad's car, bleeds out and dies in front of you. Now that's I'm not gonna no not sugarcoating that at all. That's terrible. That's awful for any kid to have to see something like that. But the guy that T-boned your dad's car just happened to be Asian? Did I miss that? Did I hear that correctly? And what does that have to do with Asians being targeted for abuse? Why? What?
Now, fast forward to a few weeks ago.
No. I got to hear that story again. I'm sorry. I just.
That individual lost his life.
No. Go hold on.
They're the same age as my parents.
Okay, so you're talking about the stories of anti-Asian attacks and such that have taken place and been, in the media for the last year. Okay. I don't know what people the age of your parents you're talking about because you haven't cited anything specific yet. Okay.
And I, as an 8-year-old, experienced what it's like to see an Asian American person bleed to death on the pavement in front of me.
Right. They bled to death and died because of a traffic accident, not because they were attacked by someone. And they just happened to be Asian American by your story. What does that have to do with the instances of attacks on Asian people in the last year? I'm not quite at a WTF, but I almost got there. Maybe, sort of. What?
He T-boned my father's car.
Yeah.
His blood soaking a pack of baseball cards I clenched in my hands as I uttered the F word for the first time in my life.
So kind of like that scene in A Christmas Story. I know, I'm making light sidewise of a not fun story, but what can I do?
Now, fast forward to a few weeks ago.
Okay.
When news alerts about a mass shooting in Georgia lit up my phone.
Yes, the Atlanta spa shootings where, what was it? There were 8 victims, 6 were Asian women, and the other 2 were, what was it, white? I think there was a white guy in there and maybe a Hispanic person. I don't remember. All I know is that they kept focusing on the fact that 6 of the 8 were Asian women. But they never really talked about that 2 other people died who were not Asian women.
The image of that Asian American person's lifeless body flashed before me.
Okay, so you heard about a shooting where 6 Asian women died, and it flashed you back to seeing the death of a guy who hit your father's car. Oh, okay. I guess you drew a line one to the other. Do you only flash back to that memory when you're thinking about Asian people who are dead?
The difference is that he died by accident.
Yes.
But the 8 victims were murdered in a racist hate crime because a white gunman was having a bad day.
He also killed 2 other people who were not Asian women. But I guess those people's lives don't matter or aren't significant enough to mention. I honestly have to ask, does our speaker care or get this emotional over any murder, regardless of whether the victims were Asian or not? I mean, I would hope on a sort of a humanitarian level that we could all agree that murder is bad. That's kind of one of the founding notions of our collective civilization, mostly. So is he selective in his sorrow, I wonder?
The racist stereotypes of being a model minority, the correct way to be a person of color or a forever foreigner, show me that we need to challenge the assumption that there is a single Asian American experience. And I'm here to offer some advice on how educators and those who care about children can be part of this fight.
Okay, that's a lot to unpack. First and foremost, I had never heard of the concept of the model minority until social justice activists told me that it existed. I swear, I never even occurred to me, or the notion that there is a correct way to behave as a person of color. Maybe I live in a bubble. I probably do. But a lot of the things that I'm told are true about the world are coming from people who are telling me that they're not the ones who are telling people they're true, if you get my drift. I'm always hearing about the bad things and hearing more about it from the people who tell me that they're against them than anybody who would either act like or proclaim themselves to be for them. Okay, yeah, no, I don't believe there is a single way for an Asian person to act. I'll just state that on the record. I don't believe there's a single way for any person to act, regardless of their ethnicity or race or gender or country of origin or whatever else, outside of saying that the one thing I do expect of all Americans is to follow the law. That's about the only behavioral expectation I have of any person I happen to encounter on the street, let's say. Now, is that expectation always fulfilled? Obviously not. But that's the expectation that most of us adhere to, both for ourselves and others. So, okay, you tell me about your fight to break the stigma of the model minority, which I don't even know what that means.
And I'm not here to tell you some rosy picture about how it's all going to be okay.
Oh, do not worry. Do not worry about that. I have had absolutely no evidence so far to believe that you're here to tell us good news or to paint a rosy picture. You're safe on that one.
I'm a pessimist because justice has been denied too many people of color, murdered by police, mass shooters, and white supremacist vigilantes.
Okay, so, oh gosh, what about, was it Virginia Tech? Wasn't it the Virginia Tech shooting that was perpetrated by an Asian man? How many people did he kill? Does that matter? Does it matter who the victims of murder are? I mean, does it matter to you at all? Shouldn't just murder be the thing we're against? Mass killings in general? I mean, motivations rarely make any sense to reasonable people after someone has committed murder, or mass murder specifically. But, okay.
But I'm also a pessimist.
No kidding.
In a hopeful profession.
You're a pessimist in a hopeful profession. How does that work?
Now, my students are future social studies teachers. Teaching and teacher education, this thing I do, are hopeful acts. Teaching is a forward-looking profession. It's where our hopes and dreams for our communities can become reality.
I mean, I suppose that's one way to look at it, unless, of course, your curriculum is based on taking massive steps backwards into beliefs about one another based on race, or assumptions made on power dynamics based on race, and teaching your students that they have to identify themselves based on race or evaluate themselves based on race. Because that's what anti-racism teaches, believe it or not.
And at teaching's core is a fundamental belief that our students' strengths, their passions, identities will imagine a better and brighter future for communities all across this country.
Does that include racial identitarianism? Because if it does, that is not a forward-looking philosophy.
And if you want proof, ask my students who are starting their careers as social studies teachers in schools across Michigan during a global pandemic, who are still hopeful because they know the impact that they have on their students. And I tell my students that I see myself as a pessimist in a hopeful profession because I'm painfully aware that I am teaching my students to work with a curriculum that I do not see myself represented in.
You're working with a curriculum you do not see yourself represented. Okay. Thank you, John Miller. Teacher teaching teachers. Is that like the blind leading the blind? Not necessarily. As a concept, there's, you go to college to get a teacher's degree or certificate or something, or to learn how to be a teacher. Educating people to be better educators is not a, alien profession or anything. It all depends on what it is that they're teaching or what their motives are behind it. Just like with, anyone who sets themselves up as an educator. But anyway, thank you, John Miller. But so our speaker does not see himself represented in the curriculum he is teaching. What do you mean by that?
So I don't see horizons as something hopeful.
Okay, you're a pessimist. You're a rain cloud on everyone's day. I get it. Okay.
But they're kind of like my home country of Taiwan, because to me, Taiwan is somewhere that feels far away, somewhere that I can maybe aspire to return to someday, somewhere that will always be home to me, but it'll always be an idea.
Well, you could argue that the most nations are ideas. Ideas of history, ideas of culture, ideas of, I don't know. They are ideas. That's it. Countries, laws, a people, they all come from people's minds. Yeah. I'm still stuck on the fact that he put "from" in quotation marks when referencing Taiwan on his map.
And I'm giving this talk at a time of intense anti-Asian racism and xenophobia, re-emerging because of a pandemic that the previous occupant of the White House called the Chinese virus or the Kung flu.
Yes, he did do that. So did a lot. Well, I don't know about the second one there, but the Chinese virus or the Wuhan virus or everything else. A lot of the media called it that too in the beginning as well, before they decided that they were going to say it was bad to do so. But that aside, what does that have to do with anything? Okay, an increase in anti-Asian hatred. For the sake of things, and because I don't have the statistics in front of me, I will stipulate to it. All the stories that I've seen, all of the comments that have been made, and so on. Okay, I'll grant you that. It's bad, right? We don't want there to be hatred amongst ourselves based simply on race. We don't want to make assumptions about one another or judgments of one another based on race. So likewise, you would not be promoting assumptions of people's character or possibilities based on race, right?
Or again, just weeks ago when 6 Asian American women were murdered by a white supremacist mass shooter in Georgia.
What about the other 2 people he killed? Do they not matter? Do you not care about those people's lives? Sure sounds like you don't.
But I said I'm in a hopeful profession, which means I and my colleagues believe our work can do something about the violence our kids of color encounter at school and beyond.
How about first and foremost, I'm not quite sure how sociology teachers are going to combat violence against people of color, but how about just combat violence in general? Why are you limiting your horizons on the basis of skin color? Why can't the work just be against violence, regardless of the motivator?
But it is not just on us as teachers and teacher educators to orient our students towards normalizing counter-narrative storytelling and fighting the racialization of folks of color.
So your students come into your class and you, preemptively believe of them to be terrible racists and violent people? Or you're teaching your teachers to assume that their students are likewise? Because without your knowledge, they're worse people?
We cannot keep mistaking an orientation of anti-racism, or even our loftiest ideals like the American dream for a destination.
What?
What? What is that? What the fuck is that?
Okay, I gave plenty of time. I mean, okay, all right. The American dream is an ideal. It's a destination. I mean, what is your happy? Okay, let's put it that way. Because the American dream says nothing specific. It is an abstract, right? What is your happy? That is your destination. Now, will you reach it? Not necessarily. There is no promise. There is no guarantee that you will reach your happy, whatever it is. But it is a destination. It is a goal you can attempt to achieve. Can we not make a goal of reducing the prevalence of racial identitarianism in this country? Can we not make a goal of moving to a place where assessing people on the basis of skin color is, at the very least, unfashionable? You know, and at the best, just not even a thought in people's minds? Can we at least try to attain that? Are you willing to let go of your labels of race, either on yourself or others, in order to work towards that?
When kids, especially those of us who come to America like me and are taught to be American in social studies classrooms, we learn white middle class norms and are set up for disappointment when we realize that years later that the American dream is, as David Lavery reminds us, a frail hope rather than a firm promise.
It was never a promise. It was never a promise. You are guaranteed nothing here except, ideally, the protection of your rights and a plethora of social safety nets that we've set up that if you end up in a tough spot, there's some help to be had. Not perfect. Doesn't cover everything. But you are promised some things, but you're not promised an outcome. You're not promised the end-all, be-all of your own happiness. Never was a promise. Never has been a promise. So I don't know what people taught you when you were growing up, right? But you are mistaken. For the most part in this country and in most places in the world, you kind of have to earn your own way. And that's not guaranteed one way or the other simply on the basis of your skin color. But if you believe that you are at a disadvantage on the basis of your skin color, and you project that belief onto everyone around you that you believe is keeping you down, then I have a feeling you will never find your happy.
And Gloria Ladson-Billings and William Tate point out that so many folks of color feel that we have to self-condemn our identities in order to self-preserve.
You feel that way? Okay, well, you can choose not to, whatever that means. So I don't know. Are you? Are you not? What does it mean to you to push down your true self? You know, who is your true self? Or if you were to do so, what would your true self be compared to the one you'd present in order to, quote unquote, survive?
I think often about the times I had to distance myself, to self-condemn my race, my culture, in order to preserve myself.
You had to self-condemn. Well, going over to the bingo card, I wouldn't have believed it, but self-vilification or wretchedness. Well, the concept has been presented. Okay, who made you do that? Why did you do that? And how was it for you? I assume not good.
And in that way, this horizon of a post-racial America, after we've had a Black president and now a Black woman vice president, is still an orientation, not a destination.
I still have absolutely no idea what that, maybe it's the poverty of my vocabulary or something, but he is, at least as far as I can tell, not yet explained what he means by an orientation versus a destination. An orientation versus a You are very, very focused on people's skin colors. Very, very, very focused on people's skin colors, as though that says anything about the quality of a person or the significance of a person. Now, the fact that Barack Obama was half Black, I mean, it's definitely it was definitely a new event in the history of our presidents, but his skin color said nothing about who he was or how he would govern. Kamala Harris being Black and Indian and so on, or Southeast Asian, however they're classifying it, because they've gone so many ways in describing her. But again, no matter how they describe her ethnicity, it says nothing about who she is or how she governs or the quality of her leadership. But it's very, very important to you. Why is that?
And I say that again because we need to disrupt the curriculum we teach our kids and challenge those in power who profit from what we continue to teach our kids.
Okay, what are we teaching our kids that people are profiting off of? How does that work? Draw a line for me, because I don't know what you mean.
And in our community's classrooms, well-meaning teachers unintentionally cause kids to be ashamed of their identities and histories, or just as problematically taught to see that their culture is a set of stereotypes, food, and festivals, which means...
Wait. Weren't you the one just a few minutes ago saying that, you're Chinese, but you don't even like Chinese food? Or, okay, well, all right, stepping back even again. I would be curious to know what our speaker thinks about programs in some schools that have been advertised and publicized quite a bit that go out of their way to tell white kids that they need to feel bad and take accountability and responsibility for the actions of people they never met, and that they're simply existing with their skin color makes them a social villain. If you don't want to teach kids that they should be ashamed of themselves for things they have no control over, why are you focusing so much on racial differences in possibility here?
Is a set of stereotypes, food, and festivals, which means that we need to rethink what representation and solidarity look like in our classrooms and how we train our communities teachers.
Okay, well then describe it to me. Give me some specifics. Change how? What is wrong, and how would you change it? I encounter this so many times in these things. If you're going to articulate a problem or suggest the existence thereof, you need to give some specifics. You need to describe what the problem is. And then if you're saying that there should be a change, well, then you have two options. Either you can describe what you would do to change things, or just be honest and say, I don't know what the solution is, but this is a problem. I will accept someone saying, I don't know. If there's a problem, if there's something going wrong, and you say, this should not be the way it is. And if you're asked, well, what would you do to change it? I'm like, I don't have an answer. I don't have an explanation. I don't have a fix, right? Some things are too complex, or some things are bigger than just one person's mind to figure out. I could accept that. But if you don't either give us your description of a solution or just admit that you don't have the answer, we're not getting anywhere. So how would you change the curriculum to make things better? How would you, in a pie in the sky situation, what would you do?
maybe then the things that made me feel like an outsider as a kid will become an entry point into another student.
Okay, going to the bingo card. Marginalized, marginalization, outsider, other. He's used various synonyms over the course of things. White supremacy. He talked about the shooter in the was it the Asia, the 8 people who died in the, was it the spa or the massage parlors or whatever? He talked about white supremacist. Let's see, a list. He has to have listed off some things at this point, hasn't he? He has to have. Everything's washing over my brain at present that I'm trying to think of a specific instance. I might need some backup on that one. Let's see, systemic institutional. He's talked about the American dream. He's talked about schools. He's talked about, yeah, okay. Sales pitch for product or service. Now, again, him describing his career or his job does not a sales pitch make. So unless he gets to something else, I'm not circling that one. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Oh, did he say inclusion or inclusive at some point in here? Oh, I can't remember. I'll need some backup on that one. Microaggressions, unconscious bias. He talked about teachers unintentionally insulting students and so on. That's microaggressions. Privilege. I don't think he said the word, but obviously it's heavily implied by the whole American dream thing. So I'll probably end up circling at the end, but I'll leave it until I hear him say it. Contradicts own point or argument. I'm not sure what his argument is yet, honestly, because he needs to describe what it is he would fix and then how he'd fix it or needs fixing. Patriarchy, no. Weightless example. I mean, he tied the event of him seeing someone die to the, so, okay. Wage gap. Not specific. I mean, the American dream part of it, I guess. If I was going to do a stretch, I could circle wage gap, but I'll wait on that one. Feminism, no. A list, again, I'm pretty sure he listed something at this point. Make something about race, sex, etc. for no reason. Attempt to coin new buzzword, buzz phrase. Orientation, not a destination. I'm thinking I might circle for that one. Mind reading assumes motives. Yep. Whole system's racist. Everything's racist. Your curriculum is racist. Benevolent condescension. Yeah, I'm getting that too. Anecdote that probably never happened. I can believe that he witnessed someone dying. There's nothing about that story in particular that makes me think it was made up. So, it doesn't sound perfect. My 5-year-old walked in and asked what the political forces in the January 6th investigation are going to result in or something. Leaves out vital context. I'm waiting for him to functionally describe this orientation destination thing. All right. I know I'm leaving a lot of things dangling because I want to give the next 4 minutes a chance. So we have collectivizes own demographic, systemic institutional, childhood or family anecdote, plays victim, microaggressions, unconscious bias, free space, marginalized marginalization, white supremacy, word salad, self-vilification or wretchedness, mind reading assumes motives, and benevolent condescension. Let's continue.
Happiness. Now, with survival and anti-racism as an orientation, and our students and children's joys, the destination.
Whoa, okay. Survival and anti-racism as an orientation, and our children's joys as a destination. I thought the American dream wasn't a destination. I know I'm stretching from children's joys to, the pursuit of happiness and everything. So survival and anti-racism as an orientation, joys as a destination. Okay, so are you distinguishing between beliefs and goals? Or honestly, I'm confused.
Here are 3 steps towards centering that happiness of our kids and the kids in our communities as an anti-racist practice with links that you can scan while you watch, by the way.
Oh, goody. Well, a list. Here are 3. That's definitely a list. So we have a list on the board.
So, 1.
Yes.
Black Lives Matter at School is an organization of teachers who make 4 demands.
Black Lives Matter at School is an organization of teachers that make 4 demands. Okay.
1, that schools fund counselors, not cops.
Schools fund counselors, not cops. Okay. Well, now I don't know how some police, school police work, but at least where I live, and was the experience I had when I was growing up, is that there was a police officer that worked for the city who was assigned to the school and was paid for by the city because he was drawing a paycheck from the city, and his job was to monitor the school. Now, I don't know, unless we're talking about in the general sense of taxpayer money, how much of the school's money went to the cop. I don't know how that works exactly from school to school or district to district. But fund counselors, not cops. What if you have a school that's in a high crime area? Or what if the school has had incidents where, police are necessary or it's safer to have them around? But, okay, so they demand they fund counselors, not cops. Okay.
2, hire more Black teachers and teachers of color.
So, Black Lives Matter at School demands racial discrimination in hiring practices. Got it.
3, teaching Black history and ethnic studies every month.
Teaching Black history and ethnic studies every month. Why so focused on one oh, never mind.
And 4, ending zero tolerance policies.
Okay. That last one, I could conceivably get behind depending on what we're talking about. If a school has a zero tolerance against, I don't know, sexual assault, or if a school has a zero tolerance against cheating or something like that, I probably wouldn't argue with them. But we have heard the apocryphal tale of the child in a school within like the 5th grade or something who picked up a chicken nugget and pointed it at a classmate and said, "Bang, bang." And they were immediately either, I forget, suspended or expelled from school for threatening violence on somebody else. This is way back after Columbine. So, yeah, it depends on what we're talking about, but I would be behind getting rid of zero tolerance policies depending on what they were talking about. Everything above number 4, however, there's some obvious issues there. Okay.
Because when Black Lives Matter, we are all lifted up.
Okay, well, what about the lives of the people that died in that shooting that you won't talk about? Did their lives matter? Or because they weren't Black, they don't matter? I'm not quite sure what you're going for there. Thank you, Megan Ring. I think he means direction when he says orientation, like to orient yourself on a map. Okay. All right. If that's what he means, then okay, an orientation is not a destination. Yeah, pointing yourself in a direction is not necessarily where you're trying to get to. Okay, so survival and anti-racism are orientations, not destinations. So they are endless goals, let's say. So is that the distinction we have here? We have a finite goal and an infinite goal. Infinite goal being the orientation, the finite goal being, the destination. I think that makes more sense to me if that's what he means. And if that's how you've interpreted it and that's what he's going for, then I can process that. I have heard that phrase or that assessment of things before. All right, so infinite goals versus finite goals.
2, I want you to be intentional about the books you pick for your kids. It's not just our elementary school teachers' responsibility to choose books for our kids to read.
You're right. It's also parents. Okay, is our speaker going to be one of the rare educators who actually mentions parents as part of the equation in teaching and raising children?
Not just our elementary school teachers' responsibility to choose books for our kids to read. There are organizations advancing Asian American representation in children's libraries and our curriculum.
Well, I got my hopes up for a second and they came crashing down again. Okay, so you want to have books specifically geared towards a specific race and or ethnicity prioritized. Okay.
One in particular that you can support right now is the Association of Chinese Teachers.
Uh-oh. Are you a member of this organization? Are you soliciting donations for this organization? Or could this be our very first sales pitch for product or service?
Who has worked since the 1960s to combat racism against all Asian Americans in schools. This is an organization you can support with your dollars and help them bring their lesson plans and resources to classrooms all over this country.
That's enough for me. I'm going to circle sales pitch for product or service. There you go. That's our very first one. I guess that's a milestone in and of itself. Our very first sales pitch for product or service from a TEDx had to happen eventually.
3.
Yep.
If you see something, say something. And
yes. See something, say something. Is that only in regards to the kinds of cases that you care about?
This country. 3. If you see something, say something. And I don't mean to police or surveil folks of color.
Okay. I mean, I'll be on the same page with you in the sense that, yeah, just seeing someone who isn't white is not a reason to call the police. I will agree with you on that. So, yes, very good.
But to report incidents you see of violence against Asian Americans.
Okay, and I know I'm going out on a limb here, but if I see an incident of violence against Asian Americans perpetrated by another person of color, am I to hesitate or am I to call right away? You've got me a little confused.
By going to stopaapihate.org. And if you see something right now, stop watching, scan this code, and add to our national database that will inform future civil rights legislation.
Oh, okay. I guess if somebody's on their phone and sitting on the bus or something and watching this and they see something on the bus, okay. I was just thinking to myself, anybody watching a TEDx at the same time is going to see an incident of Asian hate. I guess it's not impossible in this day and age. Kids today.
Because honestly, resistance is not a luxury of convenience, but a necessity of survival. And we need to do better. Because a black square on Instagram isn't resistance. It's safe.
A black square on Instagram. I know I should know what that's referring to, but I don't have Instagram. So, Blackout Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. So many things have happened in the last year. Okay. You're right. It is lazy slacktivism to just tweet something out or hashtag Coney 2012 or that kind of thing. I mean, I'm kind of on board with you in spirit on that one. If you want to try to affect change in something, tweeting out a picture is probably not the way to do it.
Resistance. It's safe. It's not like showing up to a protest or risking your safety and privilege for someone you don't even know.
Privilege. Privilege is on the board. And with that, oh my gosh, if you can believe it.
Bingo. What? Of course!
We have our first bingo. straight down the middle in the N column. Well, there you go. A natural bingo throughout the course of the presentation and not one extrapolated at the end. Always a happy sign.
And because, look, again, anti-racism, it's like a sunset. It's a horizon. It's an orientation.
Okay, yes. Anti-racism is a philosophy. It is a belief system. It is something that you practice regularly and have to integrate into your thinking of the world and your perspective thereof. It's not so much a goal, I suppose, unless you see cleansing yourself of all evil because you think the right way is a goal. But yeah, all right. In the belief that an orientation means a infinite goal, an unending quest kind of thing. Okay.
It cannot be a destination unless we start over with some of the very structures of our schools and country.
How? And truth be told, what I know of anti-racism is not something I would like to see turned into a goal. Because if everybody believed what anti-racism teaches, we'd just be in another racist country again. Totally racist country.
Because right now, the spiritual, emotional, and physical survival of students of color in this country is the orientation.
The physical survival of students of color is the orientation. That's the infinite goal. Specifically students of color. Okay?
But our joys and our happiness in school needs to be the destination.
I know. Yes, the pursuit of happiness. So your role as a teacher is to see to the survival of your students of color, specifically, but also to help them achieve their joy. Okay, if I was taking those two virtues out of context of what you're putting them in, first and foremost, I'd say that's awfully discriminatory on the first one. But in a general sense, yes, making sure your children, as in your students, are safe, and that insofar as you have any control over it, that they are happy, I would agree. But see how I'm having to make changes to what you've said in order that I'm not leaving anybody out because of their skin color?
We are not there. We will make mistakes, but we need to be in this work together for the long game.
The work you are proposing is a mistake.
From a pessimist in a hopeful profession, take it from me. We must dream big, fight hard, get into a little good trouble, but also look inward to unlearn the assumptions, biases, and stereotypes that cause our children in our communities to self-condemn in order to self-preserve our psyche and our spirit.
Without some more examples, I'm not quite sure what to say to that one. Everybody's different. Everybody has a different experience in life. No one can be assumed to have one experience or the other based on their skin color. If you're doing that, you might want to take another look at yourself. But again, and we're not going to get it because there's only about, 9 seconds left in this thing. If you're not going to be specific on what you want to see changed, and, precursor to that, telling us what specifically is wrong, it's difficult to know what you're talking about.
And maybe then we're going to take a few steps towards our destination. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that was, I don't know what I expected, because the title didn't tell me much. And I think, well, actually, given the ambiguity and bewilderment over the meaning of the title, I think that's a fitting assessment of the content of what we just watched. But I'm going to let you guys now put your thoughts into this, as there's the potential for additional bingos here. So let me make sure that I've got the bingo card relatively centered on the screen here. That's decent. All right, so there's the bingo card as it currently sits. I will give you guys a chance here to argue for squares to be circled that are not already so. Yeah, well, I mean, you heard me over the course of this. I can... Obviously, our speaker has had some personal issues growing up. I can't know what they are. I can't know what it's like to be an adopted kid. I can't know what it's like to have a whole separate family an ocean away. I'm sure that this guy grew up with a lot of confusions, you know, and issues and things to sort of hash out in his head as compared to other kids. I can believe that. I can also believe that he's been made fun of and or discriminated against on the basis of his race. I mean, I don't disbelieve that possibility. But the tenets of anti-racism do not help to promote a society where that would not happen. It would just happen more. And even in our speaker's own words, making assumptions and assessments of people, their possibilities, their vulnerabilities, and so on the basis of their skin color, their priority, or the priority he has for people in the world on the basis of their skin color. And if you needed a very specific example, it was that list from the Black Lives Matter Teachers Association, where number 2 on the list was hire teachers who are black or are of color. Never mind if they're good teachers, never mind if they have experience, but just make sure you make your hiring practices discriminatory, and that'll be a good thing. Anyway, let's go to the audience. And again, please be sure to tag me in your suggestions or arguments for squares to be circled, just to make sure I don't miss them. Tall person, scribe light, contradicts own pointer argument. He preaches anti-racism, but has been overly keen on pointing out skin color. That is very true. So let's see. Contradicts own pointer argument. Circling that one. And let me make sure I update the right tab this time, so I'm not accidentally kicking myself out of my own show, because I've had that happen once or twice. Let's see. Who's next on the list? I'll get a couple other comments here. Lurking Gopher says, contradiction, the American dream was both an orientation and a destination. Did he classify it as both? I can believe that he did. I just, like I said, everything just kind of washed over me. So if that's the case, then even more so, that square was meant to be circled. Thank you, Gopher. Let's see. Bridget, scribe light, leaves out vital context. The shooter in the spa incident was mostly motivated due to his hatred of the sexual nature. Doesn't make it right, but it is an important context. Well, in addition to that, again, leaving out that there were other people killed in that incident, but he only values 6 of the 8. And then he talks about all lives mattering. So, yeah, both yours and that general sort of notion he put out there. Well, golly gee whiz. Would you look at that?
Ooh, that's a bingo. Right?
Yeah!
Our second bingo, if you can believe it. All right. And an honestly earned one. Not that they're not all honestly earned, but you know. All right, so we might be coming up on the end of this. I'll take some more arguments for squares yet to be circled. Some Namnyon Nation, circle feminism for his top knot man bun, please. No. He never made his hair a part of his presentation. That's kind of my, and I've mentioned this before. My one rule about speakers and TEDx's is that unless they make themselves an example or a primary part of their own argument or something, their situation or their appearance or anything else is literally immaterial. So if he'd been talking about hair in somewhere in there, then maybe. But Mr. Tickle Trunk, thanks so much for the bravo Dogcat Fox. Oh, Dogcat Fox. Wowie, wow, wow. There was a Dogcat Fox. But I also have this Dogcat Fox.
Wowie, wow, wow.
Oh, Dogcat Fox. I still need to get a couple other people to record some of those for me. I have a list. I won't tell you what the list is because I want to hopefully have some surprises down the line at some point. That'd be fun. Let's see. Any more arguments here? Let's see. Gwynplaine, I think the car crash is a weightless example, actually. Well, here's why I'm not keen on circling weightless example for that, because he did draw, tenuous as it was, he did draw a line between that experience and that memory flashing to his mind when he thinks about Asian people being killed. Okay, so I cannot fault that example as being weightless. He didn't make it part of his argument so much as he was using it to underline his personal sort of connection or trauma to such things as he sees them. So again, it wasn't a point made in argumentation towards his point, but he did give it meaning in his presentation. Maybe you think I'm being too generous there, but benefit of the doubt, all things together. And let's see. Scanner Daffley, I could have sworn he mentioned DE&I. I don't think he ever did. Some part of me thinks he might have said the word inclusion. Did he say wasn't included, or? He talked about not feeling like he belonged. Did he ever talk about inclusion? Oh, man. I know somebody rewatching this is going to put a comment down there if I get this wrong. I don't think he ever dwelled on it. Now, in aggregate, I'd be comfortable circling it. But unfortunately, right now, it is the last square in a bingo. So it has to be very specific. Very specific. It has to be like an exact example at this point for me to circle that one. So, yeah. Let's see. And John Miller says, in aggregate, he wanted the opposite of DE&I. Well, when those words actually mean what they mean, yes. Yes, that is true. Another minute here, too, and then we will... Oh, some emulation. Did we decide that the orientation destination thing was not a buzz phrase? I'm gonna circle it. I'm going to circle it because he did repeat it several times. He did make it a cornerstone of his argument. I'd never heard it before, and it's obviously a concept he's very excited about promoting. So I will take that one. Doesn't get us a bingo. That's part of the reason why I'll take it. But yeah, no, I think as many times as he mentioned that concept, it constitutes a buzz phrase. A orientation is not a destination. So I'll take that one. Keeverdam, I missed my message. Bump. Okay, here we go. Scarlight, make something about race by pointing out the guy's race. Which guy's race? The car accident or the shooter? And it wouldn't be, if it was the car accident guy, it wouldn't be for no reason, because he was tying specifically the fact that the guy in the car accident was Asian American with his, flashing to that memory when he hears about Asian people being brutalized. Okay, yeah, I see there. Yes, the car accident. Yeah, okay. There was a reason. There was a reason for him specifying that guy's race in relation to the shooting at the massage parlors. So, no, I can't circle that one. Can't circle that one. Appreciate it, but no, can't circle that one. All right. Well, I think I'm going to call it there. Oh, wait, give a damn. It was irrelevant, right? No. Like I said, he was specifically using the fact that that guy was Asian and bleeding out. That was the memory he was flashing to when the shootings happened, because he drew a connection between that guy and the people who died in the shooting because of their ethnicity, at the very least. So he had a reason for specifying it. I'm not saying it makes a lot of sense, okay? I'm not saying that it's necessarily a good point of argumentation for anything, because it's not. But at least in the context of this presentation, he made it matter as to why that guy's race, ethnicity was important in the course of his anecdote. I'm not saying it was a great reason, but there was a reason. So with that, guys, I'm going to call it there. We got 2 bingos, which doesn't happen very often. But any bingo's a good day, isn't it? Now, if you would like to hear more from me or Satsu 2 Cents, you can find both of us tonight on this channel at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for the Lords of the Night, where Satsu and I will talk about the news of the day, news stories you submit, what we've been up to on the internet, and then your questions and comments. Again, that's 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, here on my channel. Everyone, thank you so much for joining me. You guys really are the greatest audience in the entire world. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things. Even though everyone here is so well behaved, you have very little to do, but I appreciate you all the same. Everyone who donated, thank you so much for your generosity. I really do appreciate it. I hope you're all having a great Thursday. I hope the rest of the week treats you well if I don't talk to you soon. I hope you are all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.